time for the Gillette performance rankings.
You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performances was just lacked that intensity.
All right, every Monday morning here on OTB AM, we bring you the Gillette performance rankings. You can get your chance to have your say over the course of the weekend. Let us know who you think should make the cut. If you enter, you're in the mix to win a Gillette starter pack. Owen, we go from red to amber to green. Who's in red this week?
In red is Tottenham Hotspur. This is where we're going to start today. And I don't know, Daniel Levy, it's kind of like he's played a game of Texas Hold'em over the last week, and he had an okay set of cards to start things off, and he's just folded. The bet wasn't that big, didn't have to put much into the pot, and he folded. That's kind of what it feels like. He didn't have a look. All he had to do was just have a look. What would have happened with Jose in the dugout yesterday? They probably would have lost. He probably wouldn't have won the hand, but it wouldn't have cost him that much to actually just have a look. And now we're sitting here and we'll never know what would have happened if Jose was sitting there yesterday.
Well, what it shows is the complete lack of intention to win trophies. There's no argument that the hierarchy of a club is interested in winning trophies when you take your manager out the week before the cup final and you put an inexperienced 29-year-old in charge of the side. This is nothing against the stand-in manager, absolutely nothing against him, but that decision clearly looks like it was made on the basis of money as opposed to outcome. And there was an opportunity for Spurs to win their first trophy since the last time they won this trophy. And to remove that opportunity, which is essentially what you've done, suggests that you're making those decisions purely on the basis of finance. Unless there is some clause that he's unsackable because he's won the League Cup, in which case you've negotiated a really bad contract too. So of all of the people that needs to get grief this day, it is Daniel Levy for making that decision. Jose Mourinho as manager, as a top flight manager, his time appears to be gone. It appeared to be gone at the end of his time in charge of Manchester United. But that didn't stop Spurs from giving him a big contract and giving him the opportunity to take them into the new stadium. Maybe things might have been different in a non-COVID world. It's unlikely. It looks like the Spurs experiment ended the way the Spurs experiment was supposed to end, with Jose Mourinho. But when there is an opportunity for him in a one-off game to go up against Pep and to frustrate the life out of a Manchester City side who appeared a little bit nervous at various stages in games, particularly, you know, there was...
Spurs have beaten City this season under Jose Mourinho.
Like, give him the chance to do this, and then at the end of the season say, it hasn't worked out, you won the trophy, you get to say you won the trophy, here's the amount of money I was going to give you, maybe it's an extra million or two, I don't know, on the basis of winning the trophy and that those clauses in the contract that we now all are speculating about because of the Jamie Redknapp voice note. Who knows, it would be great if someone would come out and clarify any of that. But the thing is that Spurs and their ownership can't say that we're all about bringing trophies and glory to the club when they had an opportunity to win a trophy and they decided to go with a 29-year-old who's never managed at this level in his life before. He had one game to prepare the side, and even in the pre-match, it was Harry Kane. Harry's told me he's fit to play. Who's the boss? Like, Harry Kane is not the boss. So you've got to make those decisions. And look, Pochettino obviously played Harry Kane unfit in the Champions League final, so I'm sure Jose would have played him, but maybe Jose would have taken him off when it was apparent that he wasn't fit, or maybe Jose would have left him in reserve for the last half hour. You can give me half an hour at the end there when we're trying to break them down, or for extra time and penalties, because we know that that's where this is going.
Like, I mean, the counter argument to that is that you've got a manager who had been producing putrid football for the second half of the season and results weren't good. Like, there was no reason to keep him, but I just think that...
No reason to keep him that 1 week and for this one-off game where he's got a reasonable record against the guy and a reasonable record of winning trophies, like, or the kid. Which of these two is going to give you the most opportunity to...
You obviously pick Jose. Like, I mean, Spurs are very much in the red here. There's no getting away from that. They're also further in the red because it looks like Julian Nagelsmann is going to go to Bayern Munich and he won't be available to go to Tottenham. Like, it did seem 6 months ago that there was a wealth of different options when it came to appointing a new manager. If he goes to Bayern Munich, then I guess that top tier of German manager, Tuchel, having gone to Chelsea already, starts to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers is available.
Brendan Rodgers is available, but why would you leave Leicester City at the moment and
Bielsa's available.
and go to
Well,
Tottenham?
because Spurs are going to give him more money, and that Spurs stadium, when it's full, is going to be amazing.
On the point that you made about the trophies, like that, I think illustrates a further disconnect between the players and the people who run the clubs. Because if you look at the body language of the Spurs players after the game last night, the trophy clearly matters. Son was crying after the game. Kane was pretty disappointed afterwards as well. Those are not the actions of players who were like, screw the Carabao Cup.
No.
So it matters to them, and maybe to Daniel Levy it didn't matter as much as it did to the players. Also in the red this week, is Leeds and Manchester United. They're both in there after serving up a pretty poor fare yesterday, to say the least, which is a bit of a shame, because I thought the Manchester United versus Leeds game before Christmas was a brilliant game. I thought Bruno Fernandes was one of his best performances of the season. He was absolutely outstanding that night. I think it was actually the day after the All-Ireland final, that last weekend before Christmas. And I think this actually kind of plays into what we heard Brian Kerr talking about earlier on, the fatigue which is completely stamping upon Bruno Fernandes' game at the moment. That is indicative throughout the entire league at the moment. I see Graham Souness pointed towards refereeing as a reason why the Premier League fare has been so poor recently. I think the fact is, I think this is a topical conversation to have, is that the Premier League is just a competition that, unlike most big sports competitions in the world, actually takes a nosedive the later it goes in the season. Most competitions get going the later they go in the season. The Premier League obviously just dwindles. People go hell for leather for the first few months, and then come February or March, they're pretty certain about what sort of position they're going to finish in, and this is what we're left with. Yes, the fatigue is important, but I think motivation and what's actually at stake is another big factor.
What would fix that? Playoffs, the end. A grand final.
Yeah,
where you could be 55 points behind Man City, scrape into the top 8 playoffs, and beat them in a one-off game at Wembley. That'd be class.
I know we kind of facetiously put this to David Myler earlier on. This idea that, oh, people were asking for more games, and look at what all the games have done to Manchester United versus Leeds. That's actually the wrong way to look at this completely. It's a different sort of games. People maybe have been asking for more meaningful games, and there would have been a knockout phase to the Super League and all that. Maybe what we're seeing at the moment is actually a reason why UEFA shouldn't go with their new idea for the Champions League, because what that is just more group stage games. Yeah. The last 16 onwards is going to be exactly the same, and that's where people really have to be on it.
One of the things that the Super League was going to eventually lead to was an 18-team division in the Premier League. An 18-team division in the Premier League would be better than the current 20-team.
No, you're not going to find any argument from me on this. Was that part of Project Big Picture as well? The John W. Henry's Project Big Picture, which was...
I have forgotten about Project Big Picture, because it too did not last very long in terms of, this is mad vision, it's great, we're going to fix everything. It's what was that idea again? So this has been a year for a lot of kite flying ideas of how to fix football, none of which have come through.
So football is just in this stasis now. Nothing will ever change.
We're locked in an endless battle of Leeds United 0, Manchester United 0 versus what could happen in the European Cup this week.
And also, just for the record, I wasn't necessarily for the Super League by any stretch of the imagination, but there are a couple of threads to the argument that have been quite timely. The poor quality of football we saw at the weekend is one of them. The second is seeing Norwich, Bournemouth and Watford coming straight back up to the Premier League next season, or assuming that the playoffs go that way. And I saw that meme doing the rounds last week where Mo chose Barney out of his pub, and Barney's behind him straight away again, and it's Norwich, Bournemouth and Watford coming straight back into the Premier League, where people were like, don't ring fence a league. Well, next season's Premier League is going to feel awfully familiar, with the exception of Leeds United. So yeah, maybe football is just locked in an endless loop of the same thing, where we're all really excited by it from August through to Christmas, because Christmas we've got loads of games, and then once the Champions League takes over in February, that's it. We just forget about the domestic game, the English game, so to speak.
If only there was the European Super League to save us all from our misery. Right, number 3.
And speaking of European Super League, super competitions, Ireland, as we all know, they lost the playoff to Slovakia last year, so we're never going to have any competitive part in the Euros this year, but they were supposed to have some sort of hosting part in the Euros this year. That is not now happening. Micheál Martin was on the Week in Politics yesterday, and said that he thought that UEFA were out of order, quite frankly, putting that condition on countries. And this is a quote from Micheál Martin: "To be putting obligations on countries to force spectators in prematurely, in my view, was a wrong call by the footballing authorities, and I never thought it was a realistic proposition. We need to learn from previous experiences. Let's learn solidly. We moved very well in April. I want to be at a match. I'd love nothing more than to be at a club championship match, and that may happen before the end of the summer, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves." I've put him in the grand here because I think we had this conversation before, but Micheál Martin and his government are very fortunate that Ireland aren't at the Euros this year. This would be a much bigger story if Ireland had got past Slovakia and then won their playoff final and then qualified for the Euros. The decision to reopen at Christmas, like, I mean, when you compare vaccination programs between Ireland and other EU countries, Ireland obviously aren't doing too badly, but there might have been frustration on that element as well.
Yeah.
Had Ireland actually qualify for this thing, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you're playing in Seville.
We want to have a meaningful Euros, what we were saying at Christmas, I suppose. We want to have a meaningful Christmas. Right, let's get to the Greens, because we've only got 2 minutes left here. First one is Munster. What a victory.
What a victory.
It'll be a big night in the Glen tonight.
There certainly will. These moments will be remembered for as long as anybody will live in Munster, beating Leinster and ending that 6-game run. In fairness, this will be used nicely as a narrative arc, or the start of a narrative arc of Munster actually beat Leinster in a meaningful game next season. Say if it's the same Pro 14 final, people will be like, well, remember the Rainbow Cup?
Yeah.
That's when it started. And to be honest with you, there might actually be stock in that argument.
Or if they don't do it, it'll be like, it was only the Rainbow Cup. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We'll retrofit this narrative. They played well in that game, and it's important that they continue to play well next season. What's more important is that their best players stay fit and that we get to see them play together. And that's where you'll begin to see the bedding in of all of the other game plans that they have and that they're unfolding. Number 1, Manchester City. A four-peat. Foursome. A four-burger. What is it? Quad. It's not 4 in a row, isn't a quad?
I don't know. Like, did anybody know that they were on for 4 Carabao Cups in a row before? Pep Guardiola was like that afterwards. I'm not sure I was. Liverpool did 4 League Cups in a row in the 1980s, I think. So, and I think that's been glossed over a little bit, that this is like this sort of, I could be totally wrong, but maybe it was 3 in a row. I thought it was 4 when I was quickly looking back on it. But Man City have done the 4, fair play to them. They'll be going for 5 next season. But again, this is like Munster winning the Rainbow Cup, to be completely honest. It's Wednesday, 8 o'clock, Paris Saint-Germain against Manchester City. That is where it all goes. Like, they would give up everything. They would go for the single. Like, actually, that was actually the kind of the irony of the 4, is that the 4 was gone the previous week and now they're on for the 3.
Maybe there was a bit of trolling going on. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, all the eggs are in the PSG basket this week for Manchester City. If they can win the Champions League, then it doesn't matter how many in a row they've won in the Carabao Cup. It is all in this comp.
Our audience suggestions here. Bobby Murphy says Alexander Seferin for referring to Agnelli as a snake. That's a junior football performance. Ian says Calvin Phillips, after his performance at the weekend for Leeds, nullified Fernandez. Sean Carley says Dubravka for his brilliant performance at Anfield. Stephen Carberry says VAR and Spurs in the red, Klopp in the orange, and Munster/Connacht and the AFL for having crowds back in the red. 80,000 at the MCG. Alan Mullen says Leo Cullen in the red after that hammering on Saturday evening. I don't think so. Alan. Niall says he wants Klopp in the red for, I mean, Klopp's not had the best of weeks. All of a sudden you're like, that's not great. Maybe you should just calm down a little bit. Put Gavin Coombs in green. He's a beast. Put him in green for Ireland. Absolutely. Put him in green today on the Gillette performance rankings as well. Munster in green says Conor Horan. Colin Lynch says Conor Murray and Damien Dialende in the green. Murray is back to his best. Did he do enough to get into the Lion squads? You know, he's a head coach who likes the stuff that you've done for him before, Warren Gatland. Very, very, very loyal. These are the boots that he wore in New Zealand. You can see the dirt on them from it. So in the Lions. Right, competition winner. Congratulations to Paula Courtney. You've won our Gillette starter pack this morning. Paula picked Damien Dialende for a complete performance. Is it Damien? Is that how they...
Yes.
Is that how Damien Dialende?
I'm confidently going to say that.
Damien Dialende for a complete performance on Saturday night. That's been a long time coming. That's it for this week's performance rankings.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.